And here we are on the Air Radio Music History and Trivia Show, the Top 40 Timeline video blog, whatever you want to call this thing, podcast.
Webcast.
Webcast.
And here we are, and we'd like to say hi to our radio stations as always, radiogta.ca, the album station for Canada, switching around the music a little bit. Great,
just giving it a different feel.
Great tunes that kind of reminds me of the old Radio Caroline. And the album rock that they used to play. We'll play you the hits, but we'll play you the new stuff as well at the same time. Same as our local station, Halton Hills Online, with the same music format as GTA, basically.
FM108.ca.
FM 108, of course, my pride and joy, my first baby born. 50s, 60s, and 70s, that's where I came from. And of course, you can get us.
Still there.
We're just
in his later years.
Yesterday is just a click away. And sometimes I admit when I listen to FM 108, I just go back in time.
Oh, God, yeah. Every time I do.
Oh, yes, 100%.
You don't hear them on mainstream radio anymore unless there's a certain station on the market that plays that, but there's not.
Well, what's that AM station for seniors? What's that called?
AM 740 in Toronto.
Right.
It plays standards, but they don't play standards. They play the pop. Pop stuff.
Yeah, limited.
But,
we don't want to announce those stations anyways because we want you to listen to our station.
FM108.ca.
Beautiful for 50s, 60s, and 70s.
And I'm on the morning show on all three. And of course, you work for the local radio. And there's Mr. Man over there, our voice man, Lee Lakin. We're a big family here.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
We're going to be talking about rock and roll
trivia.
That's what
Yes.
we're doing.
Leah does this every week on our Facebook page, so check it out if you get a chance. But it's still funny, more fun to talk about it as we go through each story, right? So
well, it brings back a lot of memories.
Gosh,
too,
yeah.
right?
You know, it's our heyday of, music and parties and passion. Yeah, that too as well. Good word for it. Yeah.
Now, Margaritaville, when you listen to that song, I'll let you open up the
Wasted
show. Tell us
away
about that song
again in
what it's all
Margaritaville.
about, because, we've all been listening to it for years, and we all know the lyrics. You tell us the story.
So, Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett is a song that conjures images of lazy summer days and drinking too many margaritas. But if you've ever sung along to more than Some People Claim There's a Woman to Blame part, you might have noticed that the lyrics actually paint a bleak picture. The song's narrator isn't on vacation, but wasting away in a beach resort community, getting tattoos he doesn't remember, looking for lost salt shakers, and drinking endless cocktails to help me hang on. Is he aimless and depressed because of a failed relationship? It sure seems like it, and as the song unfolds, he goes from insisting it's nobody's fault to hell, it could be my fault, to finally, it's my own damn fault.
Yeah. So, it's a lighthearted song that you think of.
Such a
it's
catchy tune, too.
Well, the music background, right, gives it that, But, a lot of people don't listen to the lyrics, when they actually get into a tune. They hear
it's the
that,
music. It's the music, the instruments. And I can be bad for that sometimes. I get lost
I've done it.
in dissecting the instruments and what the instruments are doing. And
as a musician, I do that. So, great band. I got a chance to see them live years ago. Ian Anderson and the tune Locomotive Breath was written by Jethro Tull and Ian, and the locomotive in the song is running out of control and is a metaphor for societal problems. Anderson gave a detailed explanation of the song in a 2013 interview with Song Facts, where he said, "When I wrote it, I wasn't deliberately setting out to write a piece of music on a particular subject, but it evolved during the writing process and into being not terribly specific about the issues of overcrowding, the rather claustrophobic feel of a lot of people in a limited space, and the idea of the incessant, unstoppable locomotive breath being a metaphor for seemingly the unstoppable population expansion here on planet Earth."
There you go.
So,
and I always thought that
pretty deep, man.
That's really deep.
Song was about a train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, most people would. But anybody knows who Ian is. He's deep.
Oh, he's such a deep guy.
He wasn't just to play a song and I love you song. It was always, right?
Every time I talk about Fats Domino, I think about my old buddy and my old boss, Norman B., who was best friends with Fats.
Oh,
and
I
didn't meet Fats, but I was sitting there one day eating my lunch with Norm, in his office. We used to eat lunch together and talk about old music and baseball and everything else, and sports. So I used to hang out and the phone rang, and I remember Becky Hood was the receptionist at FM 108 back in those days.
The Jennifer.
She said, Jennifer, yeah, she was our Jennifer.
That's it.
Yeah, and she says, Fats Domino's on the line. I just about spit my ham and cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
I would too.
Oh,
Oh my God.
And he actually let me
Love
speak
him.
to him. He said, here. He said, what you eating, boy? I said, I'm eating a ham and cheese sandwich there, Fats. Just blew my mind.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That's like.
Who's going to talk to Fats Domino
Yeah.
during their lunch break?
What
Yeah.
an icon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I'd share that story with you.
Yeah, I would love
Legendary
to meet
musician
him.
Antoine Fats
I'd meet
Domino
him.
was born on February the 26th, 1928 in New Orleans,
1928.
Louisiana.
New Orleans.
The youngest of 8 children in a musical family, he spoke Creole French before learning English. When Fats was 7, his brother-in-law Harrison Verrett taught him to play the piano and introduced him to the vibrant New Orleans music scene. By age 10, the talented boy was already performing as a singer and a pianist. 10. At 14, Domino dropped out of high school to pursue his musical dreams, taking an odd job like factory work and hauling ice to make ends meet. He was inspired by the likes of boogie-woogie piano players like Meade Lux Lewis and singers like Louis Jordan. In 1946, Domino started playing piano for the well-known New Orleans bass player and bandleader Billy Diamond, who gave Domino the nickname Fats. Despite his enormous popularity among both white and black fans, when touring the country in the 1950s, Fats and his band were often denied lodgings and had to utilize segregated facilities, at times driving miles away. When touring the driving miles, I've lost myself here. Driving miles away from the venue. Just blew my mind here. Still, Fats continued to ride high on his success through the end of the decade. There wouldn't have been a Beatles without Fats Domino.
Very true.
That's John Lennon said that himself. A health scare experienced during tour dates in Europe in 1995, he really left New Orleans, preferring to live comfortably at home with his wife, Rosemary, and 8 kids off the royalties from his earlier recordings. And my God, he had a stack of hits. Just like this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Lots, many.
And he played them all because they're all 2 minutes.
Well, he wrote for a lot of people too.
Yeah. Despite being urged to leave New Orleans prior to Hurricane Katrina striking the city in 2005, Fats preferred to stay home with his wife, who was in poor health at the time, and Katrina had also devastated Fats personally. To raise money for repairs to Domino's home, friends and rock stars alike recorded a charity tribute album, Going Home, a tribute to Fats Domino. The likes of Paul McCartney, Robert Plant, and Elton John lent their support to the early rock pioneer. The rock and roll legend died of natural causes October 24th, 2017, at the age of 89. According to the Associated Press, that was the information we got from them. He will be remembered as one of rock's earliest and most enduring stars who helped break down color barriers in the music industry. He was one of the fathers of rock and roll.
Absolutely.
And he was
Just
amazing.
Amazing guy, and you know I've seen a couple of documentaries on him, and wow.
Only one thing more important than his music and his wife, and that was the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
He was a big NFL New Orleans Saints fan. As a matter of fact, he said to me on the phone, "Who you support, boy? Who you support?" That's Green Bay. He goes, "Oh no." Oh, Fats.
That was not the answer he wanted, that's for sure.
That's one of the points in my life I'll always remember, is talking to him on the phone that
Right
day.
on.
Blew my mind.
1926, Louis Armstrong introduces scat singing when he records Heebie Jeebies. As Armstrong tells it, he improvised his vocals when his lyric sheet fell off the stand. That's how it came to be Heebie Jeebies.
Back then you didn't get extra takes.
No.
You didn't get.
No.
You recorded what you recorded. It was boom. So yeah, go ahead. Take
In
this one.
1954, responding to the rising popularity of black music, the United States Congress proposes a bill forbidding distribution of obscene, lewd, lascivious, or filthy publication, picture, disc, transcription, or other article capable of producing sound. The bill fails. In 1955, Laverne Baker sends a formal letter to the U.S. Congress to appeal a 1954 decision denying black artists a revision of the 1909 Copyright Act a move which would make it harder for white pop artists to record exact copies of R&B hits and thus steal their thunder. Her appeal is turned down.
What a different time back then, eh? Just such a
Brutal.
different time, and I just don't get it. I don't know. It's weird. And I remember in 2004, my buddy and I were in West Virginia, south end of West Virginia. I can't tell you the town. I don't remember, but we actually went to a restaurant, and it had whites only on the door. This was 2004.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
You go down to the southern states, you're going to hit a lot of that in pockets. It's
yeah,
sad.
you know, when you think of rock and roll today, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, B.B. King, John Lee
Smokey.
Hooker.
Smokey.
Well, Smokey came much later. You know, he took the R&B thing, but you know,
but he was still a part of a movement.
exactly.
In terms of going forward, right?
You think of rock and roll today, Bob Seger and Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and all of them come from that background. That's where their music background came from. So you got to think about that.
Oh yeah,
Great.
It all goes back to the golden days of rock and roll.
Oh, even before.
Keep going, guys. We got lots here.
Yes, we do. Great tune. I love his tune. I love getting up and singing it on stage too. But Closing Time by Semisonic. What else could this song be about? A bar closing at the end of the night and the bartender telling everybody to get out? Well, it turns out it's really about a baby being born. Singer Dan Wilson wrote the song for his daughter, who was born 3 months prematurely. Wilson tried to keep the lyrics ambiguous so his bandmates wouldn't get annoyed about playing the song about a baby. But at this point, Wilson is mostly amused that nobody figured it out. Millions and millions of people bought the song and heard the song and didn't get it. He once said during a show, they think it's about being bounced from a bar, but it's about being bounced from the womb. Very cool.
One of my favorite songs when I was younger.
Rubber
Ducky.
Rubber
It's Ernie's signature song, a tribute to his beloved Rubber Ducky. The song enjoyed popular fame, reaching number 16 on Billboard's Hot 100 Singles
That's
chart
impressive,
in
eh?
1970. It was all over Top 40 radio back then, and the DJs who were playing it got sick of it after a while.
Yeah.
It goes over so well that the song is released as a single, which in September reaches number 16 on the Hot 100, and it was even nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Recording for Children, but it lost to the Sesame Street Book and Record, which also contains the song.
Yeah.
In fact, which is kind of dumb,
Which
but
it does.
Ernie originally performed the song in the first season of Sesame Street, singing in a bathtub in a room that resembled his living room. The most common version, filmed for the second season, features Ernie in a bathroom with a plain blue background. The song has been dubbed into many languages, a montage of which was featured in the special Sesame Street 20 in Still Counting. And I remember that song because of my nephew, Jeffrey, who used to sing it all the time back in the early 70s when he was a kid.
Oh,
Is
it
that
was one of
something
those.
like what you do with mana mana?
Okay, we got lots of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Born today in 1960, John Roy Van Zant, born February the 27th, 1960 in Jacksonville, Florida. Van Zant performed during the 1970s with his first band, the Austin Nichols Band. They later changed their name to Johnny Van Zant Band, releasing their debut solo album, No More Dirty Deals, in 1980. He is the younger brother of Leonard Skinner, co-founder and former lead vocalist Ronnie Van Zant, and 38 Special founder Donnie Van Zant. Ronnie and two other members of Leonard Skinner died in the airplane crash in 1977. Surviving members reformed in 1987 for a reunion tour with Johnny as the frontman, also known as Johnny Van Zant. He's an American singer and the current lead vocalist of Southern rock band Leonard Skinner. He was the younger brother of Leonard Skinner co-founder and former lead vocalist Ronnie Van Zant and the 38 Special founder Donnie Van Zant. In 1980, Johnny burst onto this music scene with the release of No More sorry, dog sidetracked me. No More Dirty Deals, a hard-driving Southern rock album.
Definitely was.
Although Southern rock was being dominated by 38 Special, Molly Hatchet, and the Leonard Skinner spin-off bands. He had 2 albums under his belt, and while they were not as well known as his brothers, he had proved to the world that he was every bit as good as they were. In May 2006, less than one day before he was to perform at KSAN FM 107.7, the Bones Bone Bash 7, Van Zandt underwent emergency surgery to have his appendix removed. When Van Zandt is a fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He recorded a video along with remaining members of Lynyrd Skynyrd that is played at every Jaguars home game on the TIAA Bank Field video board. According to Skinner's website, Van Zandt was again hospitalized on August 6, 2011 at the Hennepin County Medical Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, due to complications from a previous surgery. According to the website, Van Zandt had a surgical site infected with cellulitis, which required both hospitalizations and IV antibiotic treatment. He began displaying signs of a staph infection and other symptoms related to the infection. His subsequent illness resulted in a number of scheduled performances being canceled.
Yeah, that's the thing, as they get older, start having health issues, can you guarantee that they're going to actually, right? We all live it. We all, a bunch of us live it. So it's unfortunate. But 1967, Pink Floyd continued working on their debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn, at Abbey Road Studios in London, with the exception of 2 group-composed instrumentals, one by Roger Waters' song, and the album was written entirely by Syd Barrett.
And I didn't know that. I knew he had some writings, but not the whole album.
Yeah, it was...
that was kind of cool.
Weird dynamic with that band, that's for sure. I'll do one more. 2004, a worker in a supermarket in Aspen, Colorado, alerted police after seeing a man shopping with his face covered by a mask. Police arrived on the scene and identified the man as Michael Jackson, who was in town on holiday with his children.
Can you imagine?
It's Michael.
I remember hearing about that actually when it happened.
Hi, I'm just here to get some Yoo-Hoo and Fruit Loops.
You probably thought Bop was just a nonsense song about a nonsense word. Well, it may be one of the most deeply philosophical songs ever written and performed by kids. Zach Hansen, who was just 11 when the song was released, explained that bop, and DJs hated saying that song, same as da-do-do-do-da-da-da by the Police. It's like, well, that's another Police song, and carry on with the show. It's really about the futility of life, believe it or not. I knew that. Things are going to be gone, he went on, whether it's your age or your youth or maybe the money you have or whatever it is. The lyrics definitely don't come across as playfully lighthearted as the music. And you have so many relationships in this life, only 1 or 2 will last. You go through all the pain and strife, and then you turn your back and they're gone so fast.
Can you imagine at 11?
But 11-year-old wrote that. That's what I was just thinking, right? Like that's it's, and you could put it on today, and the kids will dance to it.
Oh yeah.
The younger kids,
Fiore's lyrics, a child's claim to fame by Buffalo Springfield, are an expression of his annoyance with guitarist Neil Young, who had quit and rejoined Buffalo Springfield on several occasions during the recording of the album. He recalled to Uncut, we did a child's claim to fame on the reunion tour in 2011. We were playing Santa Barbara. There's 5,000 people out there, and Neil stops. Hold up, he says. Richie, did you write this song about me? That's Neil for you, of course. And yeah, when I wrote it, I was frustrated with the guy, but that's how we communicated with one another. You wrote a song. I'm not gonna say that 1968's Buffalo Springfield track, I Am a Child, was Neil's response to claim to fame, but that it is right there.
Yep.
Just ended suddenly, didn't it?
You want to do the next one? I'll go into the smaller one after.
Louis Brian Hopkins Jones was born in the Park Nursing Home in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire. On Saturday, 28th February, Saturday, February 28th, 1942. An attack of croup at the age of 4 left Jones with asthma that lasted for the rest of his life. His middle-class parents, Louis Blount Jones and Louisa Beatrice Jones, were of Welsh descent. Brian had 2 sisters, Pamela and Barbara. Both Jones' parents were interested in music. Her father was a piano teacher in addition to his job as an aeronautical engineer. There's an interesting mix. His mother played piano and organ and led the choir at the local church. Jones listened to classical music as a child but preferred blues, particularly Elmore James and Robert Johnson. In 1957, he first heard Cannibal Adderley's music and took an interest in jazz. And Jones persuaded his parents to buy him a saxophone. And 2 years later, his parents gave him his first acoustic guitar on his 17th birthday as a present. Jones began performing in local blues and jazz clubs while busking and working odd jobs like most musicians do. Brian connected with many musicians early on, like Manfred Mann, singer Paul Jones, future Cream bassist Jack Bruce, and others who made up the small London rhythm and blues jazz scene. He became a blues musician for a brief time, calling himself Elmo Blues and playing slide guitar. He also started a group with Paul Jones called the Roosters. And in January 1963, after both Joneses left the group, Eric Clapton took over as Brian's position as guitarist. According to Keith Richards, Jones came up with the name Rolling Stones, later with the G, while on the phone with a venue owner. The voice on the other end of the line obviously said, "What are you called?" And he just panicked. And Jones' legal troubles, he just panicked. Rolling Stones. Voice where did I got lost there too. Jones' legal troubles and estranglement from his bandmates, substance abuse, and mood swings became too much of an obstacle for his active participation in the band. Unfortunately, arrests for drug possession, strained relations between Jones, Richards, and Jagger. Jones was alienated a bit at the time until he was no longer in the band. As Bill Wyman stated, there were at least two sides to Brian's personality. One, Brian was introverted, shy, sensitive, and deep thinking. The other was a preening peacock, garrulous, artistic, and desperately needing assurance from his peers. Wyman also added he pushed every friendship to the limit and way beyond. Around midnight on the night of July 2nd and 3rd, 1969, Jones was discovered motionless at the bottom of his swimming pool at Crotchford Farm. Jones' children, John and Barbara, believe their father was murdered, and coincidentally, Hendrix and Morrison both died within the following 2 years, with Morrison's death falling on the same date as Jones, and all three died at the age of 27.
Weird?
Yeah, the 27 group.
They weren't connected, the deaths, but it's just so weird that they all died 27 in the same year.
Yeah, it's interesting to know where the name the Rolling Stones came from. Finally know that.
It was Rolling Stones until they added the G.
In 1970, Led Zeppelin played a gig in
Go ahead.
In 1970, Led Zeppelin played a gig in Copenhagen as the Knobs after Eva von Zeppelin, a relative of the airship designer, threatened to sue if the family name was used in Denmark. Isn't that weird?
That's funny.
That's one I hadn't heard. I'll do a few tidbits here, or at least one. Sheryl Crow wrote, "A change would do you good" with guitarist Jeff Trott and drummer Michael McLeod.
Brian
McLeod during a 6-month stay in New Orleans. The song juxtaposes an array of images to highlight what needs changing in someone's life. In a Songfacts interview, Trott remembered digging into classical soul for inspiration. "We were trying to come up with something like the Staples singers. Mavis Staples is one of those legendary and soul singer-songwriters, and Cheryl and I have this affinity for those old soul songs, Motown, stuff like that. We're also trying to find those rare songs for inspiration. The trio came up with so many lyric ideas that they decided to throw them all in a hat and draw them out, and leading to a string of non-sequiturs that tie the song together." Trott said, "Cheryl, I just picked them out randomly and put them on a piece of paper, and we all read them. We all thought, whoa, that actually makes sense, even though it's so oblique and completely abstract. So we put this thing together and tried to keep the order pretty close, just swapping a couple of the lines to make more sense." So there's a story of that song there.
There's always something behind it. It just doesn't, fall out of them and go, oh, it's good.
Cheryl
And
had
it's a
the
hit.
idea, right?
Yeah.
Just throw it in, pull it out, throw them on the table, and there's our song.
Yep.
That's kind of an interesting way to do it. I don't think I've heard that happening a whole lot.
Not a lot, I wouldn't think.
No, I don't think so. Richie Haven's most famous song, "Freedom," was actually improvised on stage at Woodstock. With other artists delayed in reaching the music festival, Richie was sent out for the encore, until he'd run out of material and improvised the song based on the traditional spiritual motherless child.
Very cool. Again, on a whim, it's incredible what can happen.
Yeah.
Take another one. Go for it.
So born today in 1904, which would have been
A couple weeks ago.
yesterday.
A few weeks ago.
No, yesterday. James Francis Dorsey was born in Shenandoah, and that would be February 29th, 1904. Pennsylvania, United States, the first son of Teresa Langton Dorsey and Thomas Francis Dorsey. His father, Thomas, was initially a coal miner, but would later become a music teacher and marching band director. Both Jimmy and his younger brother, Tommy Dorsey, were musically active during their childhoods, and by the age of 7, Jimmy was already playing with his father's band. He made his first public appearance at the age of 9 while playing a trumpet with J. Carson McGee's King Trumpeters in New York in 1913. He switched to alto saxophone in 1915 and then learned the clarinet. Jimmy Dorsey played on a clarinet outfitted with the Albert system of fingering, as opposed to the more common Boehm system used by most of the contemporaries, including Benny Goodman and Artie Shaw. In 1927, the brothers created the Dorsey Brothers Orchestra and signed with Oka Records for some of their sessions. Glenn Miller would join them as a trombonist, arranger, and composer. Jimmy Dorsey and his orchestra would provide accompaniment for Bing Crosby's Kraft Music Hall radio show. The band was featured on 73 programs, but within a few years, Dorsey left Crosby in 1937 to concentrate on his own career and various talented singers, including Jerry Lewis's first wife, Patty Palmer, and Frank Sinatra, just to mention a few. In 1956, after Tommy Dorsey died from choking in his sleep, Jimmy took over leadership of the orchestra. Around that same time, Jimmy was diagnosed with throat cancer. At the time of his death, Jimmy's final hit song, So Rare, reached the number 2 spot on the Billboard charts, becoming the highest charting song by a big band during the first decade of the rock and roll era. Jimmy Dorsey is considered to be one of the most important and influential alto saxophone players of the big band and swing era, and also after that era. He died on June the 12th, 1957, at age 53 in New York City.
So Rare is such a great piece of music. Really.
Oh, and you should have seen, there was pages of his biography and everything. Like, I had to break it down so we could have time to read it, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
A lot of these I have to just take pieces and put them together because, wow.
Think of back then how they
Crazy.
traveled to go play all these venues and stuff. Like, it would have been crazy, right? 2000, Sir Elton John was stormed out of the opening of his Broadway musical show, Aida, after 15 minutes complaining that his songs had been ruined. And if you're getting told by Elton John, then you screwed up. You made a big boo-boo. Yeah. I'll do one more here. A Day in the Life by the Beatles, as explained by Paul McCartney, is the song's origin story. It was a song that John had started. He had the first verse, and this often happened. One of us would have a little bit of an idea, instead of sitting down and sweating it out, we'd just bring it to the other one and kind of finish it together, because you could ping pong and you'd get an idea and go with that. So we had the first verse. I read the news today, oh boy, and we sat in my music room in London and just started playing around with it and got a second verse, and then we got to what the song was led into the middle. We looked at each other and we knew we were being a little bit edgy, where I'd love to turn you on. We knew that it would have an effect. The beginning of the song was based on 2 stories. John Lennon read in the Daily newspaper Guinness heir Tara Brown dying when she smashed his Lotus into a parked van, and an article in the UK Daily Express early in 1967, which told of how Blackburn road surveyor had counted 4,000 holes in the roads of Blackburn and commented on the volume of material needed to fill them, enough to fill the Albert Hall. McCartney contributed to the line, I love to turn you on, and this was a drug reference, but the BBC banned it because of another section which they assumed was about marijuana.
Now, were the Beatles smoking weed at this time? Because they didn't smoke weed at the beginning.
Not
in
the late 60s.
They were definitely into it by then.
Yeah, the late 60s. They started.
They were into the life
as
a cookie in India and all that
stuff.
Yeah,
it was so. It's just it's interesting again because the Beatles songs are so iconic for most people that when they actually find out how they they collaborated is also interesting too.
Big
So
birthday this week. Harry Belafonte was born Harold
Today.
George Belafonte Jr., March the 1st, 1927. Sadly, he died on April 25th, 2023 at Lying In Hospital in Harlem, New York. The son of a Jamaican-born parents, Harold George Belafonte Sr., who worked as a chef, and Melvine Love, a housekeeper. From 1932 to 1940, Belafonte lived with one of his grandmothers in her native country of Jamaica, where he attended Wolmer's schools. Upon returning to New York City, he's dropped out of George Winter High School, George Washington, pardon me, High School, which after which he joined the U.S. Navy and started serving in World War II. In the 1940s, he worked as a janitor's assistant, during which a tenant gave him, as a gratuity, 2 tickets to see American Negro Theater. Fell in love with the art form and befriended Sidney Poitier, who was also financially struggling. Can't imagine either of those two financially struggling, but there you go. They regularly purchased a single seat to local plays, trading places in between acts after informing the other about the progression of the play. Belafonte started his career in music as a club singer in New York to pay for his acting classes. The first time he appeared in front of an audience, he was backed by the Charlie Parker Band.
Not a bad start.
Which included Charlie Parker, Max Roach, and Miles Davis. Is that the same Max Roach who did the studios for the Laurel and Hardy? I wonder. I don't know. You see, I got to Google that. Belafonte recorded several albums, began a film career in the early 1950s, and continued in the film and theater involvement until 2018. He also became a political activist in many ways, human rights activist, civil rights movement, humanitarian activism. He was a kind man, and he was also involved in prostate cancer advocacy since 1996, when he was diagnosed and successfully treated for the disease. And he suffered a stroke in 2004, which took him away from his inner ear balance. Oh my God. From 2019, Belafonte's health began to decline, but he remained an active and prominent figure in the civil rights movement. Belafonte died from congestive heart failure at his home in Upper West Side of Manhattan, New York, April 25th, 2023, at the age of 96. And all I have to do is say is Deo.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
And we're at our time slot here. We're pretty much filled our whole time
There's
here.
only 2 things left.
Is that it?
All right, go
There's
ahead.
a couple.
Knock yourself out with a Glenn Miller. Go ahead.
Today in 1904, Glenn Miller was born, and so was Justin Bieber in 1994.
Wow.
About the same day as
Yeah.
Belafonte.
Yeah.
1979, the Coca-Cola Company introduces Mellow Yellow as a competitor to Pepsi's Mountain Dew in the urine-colored soda category. Donovan hopes they will use his song Mellow Yellow
You know what?
in their advertising, but the company declines.
I remember that now.
Yeah. 2004, Warner Music leaves. Parent company Time Warner, for the first time, bought out as a separate entity by investors led by former Universal Music head Edgar Bronfman Jr. And a lot of these record labels are gone these days now. You don't have the same stuff out there the same way. It's not
A lot
done.
of big birthdays today, this week. Fats.
Yeah, tons of
A
them.
few others in there. Great job, as always, Leah, on the show.
Thank you.
And we'd like to thank you for joining us. And hello to our radio stations, as always, and the Air Radio Network. And don't forget, we're on Facebook, too, if you want to catch up with what's going on. On Radio GTA, on the weekends, there's a great Canadian musicologist, Bill Smith, is on the air on GTA Saturday afternoons. And we have wonderful shows on FM 108 as well, all weekend long, specialty shows. And some of the best radio on the planet comes from us, as a matter of fact. So
Absolutely.
we would like to thank you for joining us, and for myself, Lee Lywood and Lee Lakin. Have yourselves a good week, and I'll let these guys ramble on with whatever phrases they want.
Uniting community worldwide.
There we go.
Catch everybody on the B-side.
Or we hope to, anyways.
Mm-hmm.